In the mortgage industry, we're not selling shoes. I can create a marketing and advertising campaign that gets somebody to see a pair of shoes on Instagram and go, oh man, those are sweet. I want to buy those shoes. And they will buy the shoes. When 15 minutes ago, they didn't want shoes.
Yeah.
I cannot create advertising good enough that makes somebody go, you know, I'm going to spend $350,000 on a house tomorrow.
Right.
Can't do it.
I hadn't thought about that before today, but hell, let's go do it. Right.
Well, they have to come to us.
Welcome to Get Real 411, the podcast where real experts give real advice on all things real estate. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Brad.
Join us as we explore real estate successes and pitfalls through the eyes of our esteemed guests.
Now let's get real. All right, here we go today, guys. We're super excited about today's interview. It is with the one, the only, Chris Johnstone of Connection Inc. He is the masterful, quintessential marketing expert of all things real estate, specializes in mortgage marketing. And we want to give you a warm welcome. We've known Chris for a long time, but a warm welcome to Chris.
Hey, Chris, welcome.
Awesome. Hey, Jamie. Hey, Brad. Thank you for having me on the show.
We've wanted to have you for some time, but you're a busy guy. You're flying all over the place and giving presentations. So thanks for carving out the time today.
I might just build an AI algorithm the next time I need to book some time with you, and maybe work out some drip campaigns in order to stay in front of you.
That's a good idea.
I could never do them as well as you do, though.
My Synthesia avatar will show up and deliver a brilliant presentation.
Love it.
All right, so let me set this up. Known Chris for quite some time, have used his services over the years for multiple companies of mine, and more recently, in the last couple of years, we've worked hand in hand together on a joint project that he's an investor in with me. But what I find to be really the most interesting is how you're always on the cutting edge of marketing. And what I think is going to be really beneficial for our listeners, a lot of them are in the mortgage industry, as you know, various parts of real estate and other things, and consumers too. But a lot of our listeners are in the mortgage business. And so this is going to be very insightful for them, especially in a time where things are, not very easy. And breaking through the noise isn't easy. And you really have to come up with different ideas that are going to get you in front of not only your customer, but the consumer in general. And so I definitely want to dig into that. But before we do, it would be nice to hear a little bit about Chris and how you got to be in this space and where you are, because I don't think a lot of people know where you actually are physically located.
Oh, yeah. So today I'm in beautiful Ontario, Canada. So I'm about 2 hours north of Toronto, but my family and I do get to spend 4 or 5 months out of the year remotely. So we live in Costa Rica and some other beautiful places. So yeah, it's great. We hate the winter. I say I hate the winter. It's great for seasons and everything. I'm just not down with shoveling in the cold. So we kind of get away.
Most Canadians feel the same way.
My Canadian family members like to fly south for the winter often.
Yeah. It is wise. It's brutal. So spend that time surfing and meditating and building the business.
Yeah. So how did you wind up in this business? I know you've told me in the past, and kind of was in the family, but maybe explain to our audience.
Yes, mercifully brief. I got into the mortgage business with my dad, who was a mortgage broker, and I was 22 years old at the time when I got into the mortgage business with him. And through my high school career, it was a huge detriment to me that I was a big nerd. I loved computers. I actually stayed behind in class, like after school, to help set up the networking department at our high school, because when I was in high school, we actually removed the typewriters and installed the computers. And I loved that stuff so much. I stayed behind and actually helped with the implementation of that stuff. Great for knowledge, not so great for meeting people.
Good point.
So grew up as a nerd, got into the mortgage business with my dad, realized that I wasn't really good belly to belly, shaking hands, kissing babies, but was really good at marketing, building websites. And that was right when Google AdWords, it was kind of like the wild, wild west. So my dad's introduction to the mortgage business for me was kind of trial by fire. I don't know what I did when I was a kid, but obviously I did something wrong because he started me on the rate sheets and donut circuit. And he was like, here's your box of donuts, drive down to the coffee shop and drive around to all the real estate offices and just hang out in the lobbies and hand out rate sheets and see how much business you get. So that didn't work so well. But what I discovered is that all real estate agents are really looking for is either a lead or a deal. And if I could get an applicant or a high quality real estate lead, all of a sudden they'd be willing to talk to me. So long story short, I learned how to build websites. Back then they were called squeeze pages, and got really good at driving traffic on Google. This is back when you could drive a mortgage and a real estate click for like 5 cents a click.
Yeah.
So we were generating leads at about $2.50 to $3 per lead. And the leads were incredibly good because nobody had done it yet. So when I figured out how to do that, I generated over 300 leads in our first month. And within 4 months, I was doing business with some of the top teams in the market because I could just walk into their office and I would print off the 15 leads I had generated from the day before and just plop them on their desk and be like, would you like to hear a little bit about my mortgage services?
That's amazing. Yeah.
And that's how I got started.
And I think it's really interesting because having worked with you for years in various capacities with various companies that Brad and I are involved in, you were probably one of the first people that quantified for me the importance of how a lead is managed from the very moment that you receive it. I think we all intrinsically knew how important it was to stay in front of prospects and leads, but you and your company quantified for us the method in which we could do so by leveraging technology in hand with the personal touch. And it's one of the things I think that's been the most cool to watch. To Brad's point, the way you evolve, like on a dime, you just pivot and you seem to always be right ahead of, the things that are coming up the pike. How do you stay in touch with what's not just what's happening, but how do you sort of make an educated guess on what's coming and how to strategically prepare yourself and your clients for that?
So I don't want to say that I'm lucky, but there is a little bit of luck. Certainly there are moments in my career where I can go back and I can pinpoint and be like, I don't know what happened, but there was some guidance there. I was very lucky. But I think the other half of it is that I actually do this stuff every day to run and grow my own businesses. Yep. So Connection Incorporated is running ads on paid media to generate customers. So I do the same thing in my own business that we do to acquire customers for our customers. And so I get to learn it, I guess, twice in my own business and I have to look at it as, hey, I'm going to lump out $40,000 this month in paid advertising. I better get $40,000 in return on the back end of this thing. And that forces me to be as sharp as I possibly can. And then I just simply give my customers what I've learned through that process and help teach and guide them through the steps that I'm doing in my own business so that they can do the same thing.
So you're still a customer. You're a customer. And so you're almost beta testing your stuff as you go and figuring out what's working and what's not working before your customers experience it, fixing things as they come up before they wind up becoming an issue for someone else. That's pretty awesome and pretty amazing.
Yeah, look, I can attest to it. Chris is always in my feed. Doesn't matter where I go. and honestly, over the years, that's what's kind of brought me back to Chris and to his company is just that. But it's more than that. And what I really want to get into is some of these new techniques that you are deploying currently that could really help, these originators today. So I know, like, for example, as soon as Chat GPT became kind of a name in business. Like, I don't want to say a household name because not everybody knows, but if you're in business, like, you've heard of Chat GPT, or if you're
Yeah.
on TikTok, you have, right? Because, but you immediately got into that, and you immediately came up with a strategy for AI that tied it into Google, right? And how they find and how you get found on Google. And so maybe, it would be really great for you to get into the details of, what made you think of this idea, and then how you implemented it, and what exactly is it? Because I think it's one thing for people to hear, like, oh, this is what I do for AI, but to actually, the steps you took and what you did to actually implement these kind of newer techniques and the results. What does somebody have to do to follow that?
So that is a phenomenal question. And so for all of our listeners, what we have figured out how to do is to get a mortgage business ranked on the map placement on the front page of Google. So when somebody types in best mortgage lender near me, or just mortgage lender in general, there's basically a radius of up to, let's call it 75 miles around your location. And anybody that is searching mortgage lender with a purchase-based intent phrase, Google detects, hey, this person is ready to talk to a mortgage lender. They show a map with 3 mortgage businesses in that map placement, with the ratings and reviews and the phone numbers right there.
Yep, we've all seen that. We all use it.
Right? It drives the highest quality lead that you can generate in the mortgage business. And the reason why is because 90% of lead gen in the mortgage industry is chase-based marketing. So you're buying leads, Zillow, trigger leads, whatever it is, and then you've got to go contact that person and chase them. When a consumer goes to Google and searches for you, reads your ratings and reviews, and calls you, all you have to do is pick up the phone. There is no chase.
Yeah. And
it's a fundamental difference in how you're starting the client journey. And so many of our clients are 10%, 15%, some as high as 23% of the phone calls that they get are funding.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a really nice conversion ratio for essentially a tech generated lead. It's not like an outbound outreach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you compare it to paid,
Oh yeah.
most paid is 1% at best.
And we know how expensive they are too.
Yeah. And so I should go back just a little bit to explain, Brad, how I figured out how to reverse engineer AI in today's world, because I got started with paid advertising, generating real estate leads, and I went across both America and Canada doing lunch and learn seminars. Keep in mind, I'm 23 years old, and I'm literally driving across the country, and loan officers would put together lunch meetings and invite the top real estate agents in the marketplace that they wanted to do business with. And it was like, I'm going to fly in this nerd, and he's going to show up and he's going to teach us about the internet. Keep in mind, but this is back when people were having a debate, like, do I take my business card and make a business card on the internet? Like, people didn't even know what websites were back then.
Yep.
And so I would show up and be like, hey, there's this thing, it's called Google. You can run ads, you can generate leads. Here they are. 2 of you can buy these leads, and that's it. And guys would get up at the lunch table and throw their credit cards at me, and they would be the one of the 2 that got the system. So I built that to over 100 systems. And then one morning, it was a Thursday morning, I bounced out of bed, ran over to my computer to see how much internet money had been generated overnight by generating these leads. And I woke up to an email from Google saying, dear Mr. Johnstone, thank you for your business, but we're not going to run your ads on our network anymore. And just like that, I was out of business.
Okay.
And the reason why was because up until that point, the Google algorithm was national. So if a mortgage lender in Texas spent enough money on SEO, he would show up on the front page for somebody in Florida when they searched mortgage lender.
Yeah.
Google said that doesn't work.
Right.
People in Florida want mortgage companies in Florida, and it went for everything. So when Google changed their algorithm to start tracking people based on their phone and their IP address, they launched what was the largest postcard campaign ever done in the world, I believe. And they sent a postcard to every single business and said, hey, if you try Google AdWords, we'll give you $300 or $500 in free advertising credits. So in order for them to go get those customers, they had to cut all the middlemen and middlewomen out of the market. And So at that point, I was in a mastermind. There was 30 of us, and one guy was the HVAC guy. I was the real estate and mortgage guy. All 30 of us had our accounts shut off in a matter of a month.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, I have tasted the fruit of online marketing. I understand that most of my customers were fully reliant on those leads to grow their business. Like everybody was addicted to it. I knew that Google could change somebody's life and change somebody's business, but I had to figure out how to do it with paid ads. So after I shut that business down, I booked a one-way ticket to the Philippines, and I flew to the Philippines, and I hung out on the beach. I got my scuba diving license and spent all of my time researching how Google worked in the new algorithm environment where they were looking at local people. By the time I came back from the Philippines, my dad's mortgage business had 9 of the 11 spots on the front page of Google. Like literally, if you Googled Guelph mortgage lender or Guelph mortgage broker, he had almost the entire front page. And so then I went out and said, hey, the algorithm has changed. Here's how we do it. So we are going through that exact same transition period right now as Google shifts their algorithms from being AI based. Yeah. They're switching to now using an AI system. And I think it's important for our listeners to understand how AI works. You give it a whole ton of data up front. Here's all the user pathways. Here's all of the searches. Here's how people have behaved before. And then you give it an outcome. And still to this day, nobody really knows what happens in the middle in order for the AI to figure out, here's the data and here's the output, but it can get to the output. Mm-hmm. And I believe what Google has said to AI is when somebody does a Google search, get them the answer they want with just one click. So if you look at the front page of Google today, most of the times when you do the first search for a mortgage lender in a marketplace, all of the ads have disappeared off the top because AI looks at it and says, well, nobody clicks on the ads.
Yeah.
Why are we cluttering up the top of the search page with things that never get clicked on? So the ads are gone. The first thing is the map placement. And then almost directly underneath the map placement, there's this brand new thing called a knowledge panel. Yeah. And in there, it's the most frequently asked questions of local people. And it's what do they search for before they search mortgage lender and what do they search for after mortgage lender? So
Chris, can we pause there for just a second? Because
yes, please.
One of the words you said that I want to key in on is you said most of the time the sponsored ads now are moved below, but it's not all the time because I've done searches and I still see sponsored ads at the top. Do you happen to know why some are at the top and now some are not?
I believe I do. And again, with Google, it's a big black box. But if you think about artificial intelligence becoming arguably the best salesperson in the world, if you get somebody that comes up to you to buy something and you say something to them and they're like, not going to buy it. If that person comes back to you again and asks you the same question, are you going to pitch them the same way? Mm-mm. No, you're going to try a different pitch, aren't you?
So it's looking at behavior. It's looking at user behavior to determine based on the search and what most people do, whether or not that ad is the appropriate thing to show at the top. Very interesting.
Exactly. So this person has already looked for a mortgage lender. They came. I didn't give them what they wanted the first time. So let me change up the front page and see if I can get them this way.
Okay.
So it was your behavior, Brad, that drove that result.
Interesting. Okay. So to recap, AI, and I want to go a little deeper into AI because it's such a broad term, but AI, now Google's bringing that into, the whole search matrix. Sponsored ads are moving down. You've got the locals up top, local directory. Those are clickable. You can go right to them. Then you got kind of the Q&A, which I love, and I'm sure a lot of people do. Like, I'll type something, oh, wait, I didn't ask that the right way. This is actually a better way to ask that, and I'll look at those answers, right? But those aren't clickable. Like, you can't reach somebody from those. They're just answers to your questions. I don't see a way to get to, like, who gave those answers. So what's the benefit of being, like, one of those people that provides those answers, or how are those generated? Is that just AI generated, which is, from people from websites that have similar questions? Like, how does that work?
So the answers are pulled from sites that Google sees as having authority on the topic. And what they're doing is they're actually scraping the answer from the website and displaying that little segment of the website that has that information. And if you look underneath it, there is a link where you can go to the website and read the full article of where it pulled it from. But again, that's why my hypothesis is that the algorithm is trying to get you the information with just one click, because it doesn't actually give you a website to go look at. It gives you a snippet where they've taken the content from the website and displayed it right on the front page.
Right.
But if you look at the end result, like if you go onto Google and you search mortgage rates or mortgage
I'm gonna do
calculator.
this while we're talking, by the way, for those that
Yes, okay.
aren't watching this, I'm logging into my phone. Go ahead.
So Google mortgage calculator. A map won't show up. Now, a map might show up for you because you're sitting in a mortgage office, right? But most likely, if you're on desktop and you go search for mortgage calculator, the map with local businesses doesn't show up, because Google understands somebody looking for a mortgage calculator is probably 90, 120 days or 6 months out from actually doing a deal and being a commission.
Yeah, it just gives you the mortgage calculator at the top.
And no local businesses, right?
No, there's no businesses. There's after that it's Bankrate and then mortgagecalculator.org, just some websites. Then there's people asking below that.
Right.
With the
And
Q&A.
What that tells us is that Google has watched enough journeys of people that search mortgage calculator, and they're not actually calling mortgage lenders. They're not at the stage in the buying cycle where they're going to become a customer yet. They're still in information research mode.
Yep, that makes sense.
But when somebody
that's
goes
exactly
on,
true. The Q&As here, by the way, for those of you that are listening, how much income do you need for a $350,000 mortgage? How much money do you have to make to qualify for a $250,000 mortgage? These are the questions that are in here. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's amazing because Google will only show your Google business profile to somebody who's actually far enough in the buying cycle that they want to talk to a mortgage lender.
How important is your Google business profile, Chris?
It is arguably the most valuable real estate that you can have on the internet, far more valuable than your website. So there is a service out there that has massive traction in the mortgage industry that directs people's 5-star ratings and reviews to services other than Google. And I believe that that is a disservice to our industry, because Google still gets 93.7% of all of the searches that happen on the internet. And it's not going away. It's been around for 10 years. Google is giving it the most valuable real estate on the front page. And the ratings and reviews aren't what rank you. There are many lenders. I saw a lender in Texas last week, had 1,700 5-star ratings and reviews on his Google profile. He's buried on page 2. Nobody gets to see him.
What are
because the ratings and
what
reviews
the ones ahead of him? A good question.
Oh, like there was one that had like 430 reviews or something like that, because the reviews aren't seen as Google as a major ranking factor, but it's what people use to determine which business they're going to call first.
So you want to show up in the first couple and then also have a substantial amount of positive reviews as a means of you being selected over the other couple companies. So step 1 is do all of the other things that would cause your Google business page to rank, and have as a credibility factor the reviews, so that when the consumer gets to you, they go, oh, I want to work with this company. They seem solid.
That's right.
Okay,
and another...
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Just one thing, super quick. Getting industry reviews, getting your realtors, financial planners, insurance advisors to get professional reviews on those profiles. We have discovered through feedback that those reviews will actually hold more weight than a consumer review. Because if you can get a realtor to leave you a review on your Google profile, somebody reads that and goes, oh, I've seen their bench signs around town. If they're willing to stake their professional reputation on this mortgage company, that's worth 50 consumer reviews. If you can get one realtor review and somebody read.
I want to emphasize this because that's very powerful. If you're if you're an originator and you're listening to this right now, one of the first takeaways, things you should be doing is reaching out to every one of your agents or your referral partners. And if they haven't done a review for you, they need to do that. Like, and that's such an easy call, right? What low-hanging fruit that is. I want to ask you, Chris, so with this Q&A section, right, where it says, you're saying it's pulling from websites, it's grabbing that, how are you using AI to generate kind of those questions and those answers so that it's pulling from your site, which not only, from what I gather, gives you the possibility of being clicked on in in the Q&A section, but also improves your rankings, right? It gives you kind of both benefits. So how do you use AI to leverage the ability to do that? And then I have another question following this.
Okay.
And when I say how do you do it, I mean, how do you do it? Tell our listeners, give them the secret sauce. Tell them how you do it.
All right, let's go. So you go to Google and you do the search. And there's basically 10 main search phrases that are in the mortgage industry. We'll start with mortgage lender because it holds the most keywords underneath it. So you go in your local marketplace, you type mortgage lender into the search. You look at that section that says, people also ask. Click on it a couple of times and it'll open up and it'll give you 10 or 12 of the different most frequently asked questions in your local marketplace. Take those, put them on a spreadsheet. Okay. Then what you do is you go to your Google business profile. On your Google business profile, Google's got this brand new feature called Q&A. Mm-hmm. They want the answers to the most frequently asked questions, and they're seeking out local business owners to give them the information because they're forced. Like, there are some front pages in the United States that are pulling information from the UK because there's not even a US-based website that has answered that question well enough for Google to get it. So you take the frequently asked questions on the Google sheet, you get a friend, family member, coworker, or set up your own Google profile and go ask some questions on some other profiles, and then go ask your Google business profile the exact same question as it's written on the knowledge panel on the front page of Google. Then you head on over to our buddy ChatGPT or Bard. I don't see a difference in the two AI engines. You go to ChatGPT-4, you ask the question to ChatGPT-4, and it gives you the response. So now we're feeding an AI-based response back to an AI-based search engine to see whether or not it's good content or not. Now, you're going to have to query it 2 or 3 times in order to refine it, make it right. AI is not perfect, but man, it's good. So you refine it 2 or 3 times so it's unique content. Then you take that as your Google business profile and you paste that as a response to the Q&A. Then you go back to ChatGPT and you say, that was brilliant. Thank you. Turn that into a 3,000-word blog article that is optimized for the key phrase mortgage lender in area name. Give me the hashtags and the H1, H2, and H3 markup that I need to rank for that keyword on my site. And it will spit you out a blog content piece that you then go to your website, create a blog, and put the FAQ that answers the question on your blog. Then you go back to ChatGPT again and you say, that was brilliant. Write me a Facebook post to drive traffic to the blog article so I can build authority on my new content. And then you do Instagram, and then you do TikTok, and then you do LinkedIn, and then you put together an article to send out to your database and your referral partners asking or giving the answer to that question to your marketplace so that you have newsletter content for that week to send out to everybody that follows you, and everybody that clicks on the email that you sent out goes to the blog. That builds authority on your content because you get users on your website, you get read time. That builds authority and ranks you on the website or on Google.
All right, guys. Chris just gave you literally the step-by-step process of what you could do to do what he's doing at scale. So if you've got the gumption to do it, there's the roadmap. If you don't, which is like most of us.
First thought in my head was, this sounds like a lot of work. I don't have time. Who can I
have do this
for me?
Right? Which is obviously why we connected with Chris to begin with. But look, that is pretty awesome. right? And you are, and I'm sure some of those things you just said about the manual process of the spreadsheet, and you've probably automated that on your side of it. But somebody could literally do what you just said, step by step, and get the same results. It just
Yep.
might take them a little bit longer. You're doing it at scale. I wanted to kind of dovetail this. So thank you for that, because I think that's huge, huge value. And we got to grab a piece of this and push it out there, Stuart, when we promote this. So I'm talking to for those of you who don't know, Stuart's our guy that runs everything, I should say, and he's off camera.
Hi, Stuart.
Yeah. So here's what I want to ask you, because about the whole thing about reviews, which we're very focused on at our company. We talk about it all the time. We could do a lot better as a company. We could do a lot better. But we also more recently have noticed, and I want to get your feedback on this. Yelp isn't ranking as high anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing like Glassdoor rank higher than Yelp. What do you know about this?
So the effectiveness of a website in Google's eyes is often measured by time on site, usability of the information, and how much it gets shared on social media, and overall nerds trying to figure out what people see as popular and not. Because all they're trying to do is show the popular content. Google's whole goal is like get you the answer to your question as fast as humanly possible. I personally believe, this is just my own personal opinion, that there has been a segment shift on Yelp and what people think of the brand and business practices and the usability of that service, especially outside of the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
And I believe that the search engines are now intelligent enough to pick up on that consumer behavior, and they're starting to direct the traffic to where the traffic wants to go. If you want to get super deep into that, go on and look at where the traffic actually comes from on Zillow. The majority of the traffic that goes to Zillow is still people that go to Google, and then the first search result that comes up is a Zillow page, and they go to Zillow. Zillow gets the majority of their traffic on their website from organic SEO.
Oh.
Google pushes that traffic. People don't go to Zillow and search Zillow. People go to Google, do a search, get Zillow, and use Zillow.
Interesting.
And I think there's enough people that are like, Yelp, ick, I'm going to go someplace else.
Yeah. And I think, by the way, I think the exact same thing. I really just wanted your take on it, because I even, I've got, my kids are all adults, but they're millennial, Gen Z, and they don't use Yelp. Like they'll use it maybe for restaurants, and that's it. And I don't, I never pull up Yelp anymore. Like I'm literally just looking at Google stuff. And so you guys need, if you're listening to this, you need to ask yourself where you're looking, and chances are where you're looking is where others are looking. Yep. And that's where you need and want to be. And that's what Chris has figured out, is where are people looking, and how do I get my customers? How do I get there, and how do I get my customers there? Can we talk a little bit about Facebook also?
Sure.
Okay, because I know, you're a Facebook expert. You do, like I said, you're in my feed everywhere, every place. I think, you're trying to build a TikTok audience. I'm probably one of 3 people that follow you there. I don't know. I'm just
Thank
teasing,
you.
but I do like a lot of your stuff on TikTok.
I don't even know if I think I have a TikTok account.
So this is a perfect, It's a perfect opportunity for you to promote your TikTok and see if you can get some more followers, Chris. But you do some great content, and you're constantly pushing out content. You constantly push me to try and do it, and I just, gosh, you really carve out the time to do it. And I know I've been really bad about it. I promise you I'll get it done, and then I don't get it done, and it's something I need to do more of. But Facebook itself, you got Facebook and Instagram, they're tied together. You can kind of, would you do separate content for each one? Would you do the same thing and share to both? Are they different audiences? Now you got Threads. Are you even bothering with Threads, or is Threads going to be, go away soon? Like, I'd like your take on all this. Do you do anything with X, Twitter? Do you do anything with that? Like, can you talk Facebook and then kind of more broadly all things social? I really would like your take on that.
For sure. So thank you for the question. And I'm probably going to be counterculture with this, and we'll see how the comments go afterwards.
Okay.
If you look at a mortgage business specifically, or a real estate business, the primary audience here, where do we get our business from? Past customer referrals, referral partners, and then a little bit of marketing and advertising. And normally it goes in that order. If I ask a loan officer, where do you get the majority of your business from? It's from referrals. And yet I see a huge portion of the mortgage community spending hours and hours and hours every week trying to craft their own content and shorts and reels and videos. And just like myself, you'll put something out, you'll get 50 views, 75 views, 100 views. And everybody's trying to reach this like viral audience that exists out there on social media. And going back to Google, if I go search mortgage calculator, Google knows, don't show them local businesses. It's not ready yet. There's a very short window of time when a mortgage consumer wants to talk about mortgages. And it is within the 90-day window of them needing to borrow that money. And the day you fund that loan, they don't want to hear from you for 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
Like, if you really think about how transactional the mortgage business is and consumers, like they really love looking at houses, but teaching them about mortgages and interest rates and Fed interest rate updates and all of that kind of stuff, it is super hard to find content that will actually engage people. So I see people using all of this time, which is the most valuable resource that we all have, to try and push into this like mythical viral audience that has all these mortgage leads in it. When if you were to spend that same amount of time to go out and friend request every past customer that you had and send them a direct message on their birthday and send them valuable content when you have it, and then once a quarter, reach out and just say, hey, checking in. Have you come across anybody that's looking to buy, sell, or refinance? Maybe a friend, family member, coworker. That's how I grow my business, and I thank you very much. You're going to generate far more money and customers by using social media as a one-to-one platform to your past customers and to your referral partners than you are creating whiz bang. Like, I'm not going to dance on TikTok and get a customer. Okay. Right. But if I have a lead that comes in and says, hey, I'm thinking about investing in Chris getting me on the front page of Google and doing my database marketing and getting me 5-star reviews and generating phone calls. Well, if I reach out to that person a week after they've done a consult with us and be like, hey, we vibed on that consult. Do you have any questions? That's going to generate business for me. And that's an effective use of social media. Yeah. Past customers. Hey, you've been in the program for 90 days. How you doing? How are things going? That's a much more effective use of time on social media than it is trying to be on content. So I'm not saying that content isn't important, but it's not worth 8 hours a week.
Yeah. It's important. But, well, first of all, I don't know if you caught this, Jamie, but one thing that I caught that I honestly have never done, and I don't know, and this is something I think maybe a lot of people hesitate with, although it could be very powerful because you're real. Like most people are very real when it comes to like, hey, here's my family on Facebook and that sort of thing, right? I have never gone through my past customer database and friended people like that were customers. I've never done that. But I'm thinking about it as you say it, yep. And this is a big takeaway. Like I'm thinking about this and going, why not? Like, I mean, let's say somebody's not, doesn't like something I post or whatever. Like there's probably 10x that of people that would be engaged. And just by every now and then posting something that's mortgage related, so being real, but you're reminding them in another way rather than a postcard or an email or a text in a campaign, which we do all the time with our database. It's another way of doing it. And so I've really never thought of that. Like what's wrong with carving out a certain portion of our days, 20 minutes a day and go friend, 10, 15, 30 people, whatever it is that you can get done in that period of time and just go through your past customer database. I think that's brilliant. Now, once you do that, here's the challenge I see. And then I still want to hear about the other platforms, but here's the challenge I see. my feed is very controlled now, not by me. And so I rarely see, like, I see a very small segment of my friends, and then I see a lot of ads and a lot of sponsored and a lot of this and a lot of that. And like, how do you control that?
Well, I mean, if we're talking specifically about Facebook, for what it's worth, my opinion, which may not have as much credibility behind it as someone like Chris that's nerded out on it to the degree that you have, which, by the way, is fascinating to me. I look at it in a couple ways. I look at it not as something that's going to directly generate any kind of lead, but by building a brand for myself, it adds credibility in the event I do have a lead come through technological means and they look at me to see what I'm about. And also, for somebody who has referred a potential client to me, now you see people go immediately to social media to see who's this person, what are they about, should I trust them? So when it comes to my Facebook feed, I treat it like a job. You know, things about Facebook that are interesting. As soon as you friend somebody, you automatically follow them. I actually cycle through my my contacts about once a week, and I look at who I'm following and who I'm not. I intentionally do a round robin with it so that I'm not always following the same group of people, and I try to have a blend of industry experts, potential referral partners, potential, you know, either past clients or potential consumer leads, and my friends and family, so that I've got a blend and I'm seeing a little bit of everything. So from my perspective, I don't know if this is useful time, but I do that about once a week. I actually look at who
That's interesting.
who I'm following and who's in my feed. And that's how I
But
feel.
that totally explains why you never comment on anything I post. You stop following me.
Well, I kind of see you every day, so I'm following you right now, just not on Facebook.
All right. Anyways,
That's
what do you
amazing.
think, Chris? Is that a good technique? I mean, changing your followers?
Absolutely.
Or changing
And
who you're following?
That's who I'm following, yeah.
so there are lists on Facebook.
Yep.
And so you can change your feed based on the list that you're in.
Yep.
So you can create a list of referral partners. You can create a list of database, high-level contacts, all those sorts of things. And so when you go into social media, you just go, you click on the list, and it will change your news feed based on who's in that list so that you can go through and
So
interact
you can
with
create
all
one
that.
that's your customers.
Well, and you can
Sorry,
also,
clients.
when you go to post something, you can just select your
Choose.
audience. So I might not, I do a lot of public posts. And when I do those, it's usually something industry related, something funny that would appeal to a wide audience, or something very real. But there are other things I post that I might only select my audience of close family and friends, because they don't necessarily need to see every single thing my 9-year-old daughter does, you know, every minute of the day. But yet my relatives out of state are dying for it. So it's a little bit of a game.
Well, you actively manage your
do.
social. Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. And I think, to Chris's point, that's a valuable investment of time.
Yep,
Versus
absolutely.
some of these other things of trying to get a more broader audience and go viral and all that. What about the other platforms, Chris? What about, Threads? What about, let's start with that. What about Threads?
So, yes, I mean, fastest growing platform ever, right?
Well, it was out of the gate. But the
then-
statistics I saw were it lost more than half its users, like, what was in the third week, Stuart? Something like that? Third or fourth week. More than half.
That's amazing. I had not heard that. That's incredible.
And please, nobody quote me on this, but I think it was somewhere around 70 million, like in the first 10 days or something, signed up for it. And then they lost like 40 million active users. Like, they just stopped using it.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
Clubhouse.
Or signed up and never
like,
used it.
I'm, I'm skeptical in the same way, where it was like everybody was jumping to the next big thing. Not to say that I'm right. It might be the thing, but it's like you do wonder what is going to be fly by night. What is the new shiny object that everybody's looking at, and how quickly are they going to put it back on the shelf and go back to what they're comfortable with?
I do see Chris posting on it.
Sure.
But there's not much engagement. And I see big, like, I set mine to follow everybody I'm following on Instagram. So when they sign up, I get notified and all that sort of thing. But then I'll go look, and these big influencers, they'll have 17 comments, but on Instagram, they'll have 4,000, right? So, you know, how much time are you putting there, and are you using similar content, different content? Are you there just because, just in case? Like, I really want to, I think people really want to hear an expert like you who just nerded out on this stuff. What are you doing with it?
So I am not actively on Threads. Did not sign up. Wanted to just see if the platform gets its feet underneath it. Also, I read the privacy policy. So that's a whole other discussion for a whole other podcast, especially when it comes to AI. But I am very much a direct response advertiser from the age-old world of Dan Kennedy and Claude Hopkins and these guys that used to like put like letters in the mail, and people would mail them checks, and they built massive businesses based off of that. And so whenever I hear about a new social media platform, I believe that it is simply that, a media outlet for us to get a message out to a consumer audience. And there are, like we said earlier in the episode, there's two ways to try and market and advertise our businesses. There is push, and then there is attraction. And I view all social media as you have to push first. You have to build an audience, you have to build a brand, and you have to find out where those people are. So demographically, if you're looking to speak to an audience that's interested in reverse mortgages, or you're looking for somebody who's looking to downsize, and you have a specific mortgage product and offer that you want to educate a consumer on, that's a message that you're going to take to a platform like Facebook. If you're looking for first-time homebuyers and people that you want to educate about how to save for a down payment and play the long game on content to build an audience of first-time homebuyers, you're probably going to do that on Instagram. If you're looking to sell a mortgage product for the Burr method, and you're looking for investors, fix and flips, people that are looking for short money loans, hard money loans, people that are looking to do the investing thing, you're probably going to put that message out on TikTok, because that's where those people are hanging out.
What about YouTube? Where does that fit into this?
So YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. So it's very difficult because we're competing for attention. Like, your mortgage post has to compete with whatever the daily news reel is, and Joe Rogan and all, like, that's literally your competition when you step into the social media arena. It's flat. Like, you are competing with the largest media brands out there when you're trying to get 12 tiles on the front page of somebody's YouTube channel, right? Or YouTube search page. So you have to treat YouTube just like you do your Google business profile. Somebody is going to go to YouTube to solve a problem. And the number one precursor on a YouTube search for our type of people that we're looking to attract is how to.
Yeah.
Right? How to get a mortgage. Most people still think you need a 20% down payment to buy a house.
Yeah, it's 100%. When we do those, social media posts and things, it is usually based upon the frequently asked questions, and they are fairly common basic questions that the audience, your typical consumer who isn't in this industry, really doesn't know. There are still so many misnomers out there as to what it actually takes today to get a home loan.
Yeah.
So how-tos for YouTube, for basic questions just like that. Yep. You do that by having a channel and just posting the videos about these things? Is that the best way?
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's so frustrating as a sales professional because we get the same question over and over and over again from different people who are asking it the first time. And the first time you answer the question, you're like, oh, that was amazing. What a great question. The 300th time you answer it, it's like, how fast can I get this done? Mm-hmm. Right? Because we've done it 300 times. But for that person, it's the first experience. So if you do a really good job with your content, audio's good, well lit, professional, you go to the front page of Google and you pull out the most frequently asked questions from people in your marketplace, and you sit down and you create your content.
Yes.
And then as you get new leads, it's like, I've created a mortgage course, and it includes top 30 questions that everybody not only asks about mortgages, but should ask about mortgages. And I'd like to give you free access to my course. head on over here. And it's literally just a YouTube channel that you can archive inside a membership platform, right? There's tons of AI tools that can do that for you. But you just put that together, just send them to your YouTube channel. Be like, here, I put together this playlist for every lead. Go through. There's probably going to be some frequently asked questions that you had in there. And if you have any more, I'd love to create more content and I'd love to answer your question for you. But every time you get a question from a consumer, you pull up your webcam and you answer the question. And then you take it to ChatGPT, turn it into a blog, turn it into social media content, turn it into a YouTube video, get it on your YouTube channel, get ChatGPT to properly keyword write you the description that goes on your YouTube channel, link it back to your blog. And in a very short period of time, you can be ever present at the moment when somebody starts searching for you and mortgages in your local marketplace, because you're there when they need help. They're the ones that trigger the journey with you. In the mortgage industry, we're not selling shoes. I can create a marketing and advertising campaign that gets somebody to see a pair of shoes on Instagram and go, oh man, those are sweet. I want to buy those shoes. And they will buy the shoes. When 15 minutes ago, they didn't want shoes. Yeah. I cannot create advertising good enough that makes somebody go, you know, I'm going to spend $350,000 on a house tomorrow.
Right.
Can't do it.
I hadn't thought about that before today, but hell, let's go do it. Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, they have to come to us.
I will tell you what, even that little segment you gave there about YouTube and what to do and fill the blog and all these things, this is really valuable content. I plan on going back and re-listening to this.
I was just thinking the same thing. I was actually thinking about sharing it with our team and just going, guys, this is a great, you know, if you're a, let's just speak to our independent loan officers in the audience who maybe aren't part of a large team or a large company, who maybe don't have the marketing budget to go out and hire a firm to do these things for them. You could listen to this episode and you could do these things and be virtually guaranteed, not guaranteed, to get some serious traction.
Seriously. Chris, you have brought huge value today to our audience. We really, really, really appreciate you. You're a genius. Like we started the podcast. You really are. You're on the cutting edge. We could probably spend 6-7 hours here and just kind of gleam everything off of your brain. But really, we'll have to do this again. And I think that'd be a great idea. You don't travel to Southern California that much, but the next time you do, let's get you up here, you know, in our little podcast room and do another one. But thank you. That. Yeah. Thank you for all that. Make sure, you know, Stuart's going to get with you and we'll post down below this, you know, when we post this, it'll have all your contact information for anybody that wants to reach out. Is there anything last that you would like to ask?
No, I love it. I absolutely love it. We do always ask a question at the end of each of our episodes. And the question is, if you could sit down with your younger self, 20-year-old Chris, knowing what you know today, what advice would you give him? What would you say?
Oh, that is a phenomenal question. I would probably say, oh, now I'm thinking too deep about it. 20 years ago, I don't know. I feel like I try and live my life with less regrets. My answer would probably be find your wife sooner, but I don't think I could have because it was the perfect time.
Yeah.
So when Brad Rice calls, pick up the phone. That's probably the advice that I would give myself.
Oh,
I should probably start taking that advice one of these days.
No. But in all seriousness, I think if you go back to one of the quotes that I love, and I think it's Jim Rohn, it is the more people that you can help get what they want, you will just eventually get what you want. And so I think I would just lean in on help other people, because ultimately that's what's going to make your life more rich. As I have grown to meet my wife and have my kids, I've really started to learn that the more that I lean into them, the more enriching it is for me. And then that has just, touched every facet of my life. So
Yeah,
That's
good lesson.
beautiful, and it's something that you live by in your actions, as much as in your words. And we just appreciate. I've always loved your energy. Love talking to you. I could go on for days with the nerding out because I could totally go down the rabbit hole with you on all this really interesting, cool stuff. But thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing some of the secret sauce. I think it could directly benefit a lot of folks that are listening.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. We'll do it again.
thank you both. And thank you for listening.
All right. We were about to say goodbye to Chris. We were done with the pod, and we're literally like, okay, let's say goodbye. You'll be able to view this later. And then Chris says, well, have you heard of what's going on with WorldCoin? And we stopped and we said, we need to record this. So, Chris, tell
Yes.
our audience, what about WorldCoin?
Okay, so WorldCoin is created by the creator of OpenAI and the person who created ChatGPT-4. If you go onto YouTube and go YouTube, Sam being laughed at tech conference about ChatGPT. He literally gets up at this tech conference and he says, we have no idea how we're going to create revenue. We have no idea how we're going to create money. We have given a soft promise to investors that we will try to make money once we are done developing this general artificial intelligence, and then we are going to ask it how to make money. Okay.
Wow.
So 3 years ago, fast forward 3 years, he's got a $30 billion valuation, right?
Yep.
On OpenAI.
Yep.
Partnered with Microsoft, literally flown around the world, meeting presidents and world councils and all of this stuff. Okay. So last Monday, same guy who said, I'm going to create the smartest general artificial intelligence in the world and ask it what to do. Last week, he launched a cryptocurrency project called WorldCoin. On the day that he did it, in 52, I believe, don't quote me on that, but over 50 cities in the world, the largest cities in the world, a magical metal orb showed up. And do you know what that metal orb does? It scans your retina. And if you give this thing your retina, which is like a better biometric indicator than your fingerprint, it will give you a global wallet and it will insert the WorldCoin crypto into your wallet as a thank you for your retina scan. And there are 3 main promises that they've made with WorldCoin. Number one, the reason why they launched the project is because they believe that very soon you're not going to be able to tell the difference between a human being and AI. Mm-hmm. The only way to tell the difference is with a retina scan. Mm-hmm. Number 2, universal basic income. Yep. AI is going to replace so many white-collar opportunities, and the shift is going to be so dramatic that this coin is there to create universal basic income for people. Mm-hmm. And 3, it is a global digital currency outside of the banking system.
So you're saying that is what AI answered was to create this coin?
That's crazy. I have a really good friend the other Matt Taylor, who's involved in crypto, and I was just with him over the weekend and we were talking about all this stuff. And one of the biggest challenges when you get involved in this is the security of the different wallets that you have and the way that you have to have so many wallets going at so many different times, because hackers spend all of their time trying to hack in. With a retinal scan, you just alleviated a major security concern surrounding your wallet, which has a whole other layer of complexity. Interesting.
So obviously the question was, how do we generate revenue? So how are they generating revenue with this?
Well, I imagine being the bank of the world is a pretty good way to make money.
So the answer is they haven't yet, but we're about to see. Just like he said, I'm going to create something that is, I don't know how we're going to monetize it, but I know I'm going to. We're going to, if you're going to hitch your wagon to a horse, this would be a person who.
So I'm a pretty literal guy. So when you say this orb showed up to scan your retina, are you talking about physically? It was like shipped out to somewhere.
I'm assuming that there are some places within, so Los Angeles, right? So, of course,
Yeah,
the first
LA.
thing I think of is, who's got the orb?
Where you go to
Yep.
where it is, and then you can do the scan and whatever. Is that
Get you. Yeah.
okay?
Like-
It's only in the United States.
No, global.
It's
Like
global.
it's in Tokyo. It's
So
like
is there
it
one
is.
in Ontario? One of the orbs.
That I don't know
So
because
you
I'm
haven't
not
had
rushing
your
out.
you haven't
to
had
check
your
it out.
retina scanned yet.
I
This
have
goes back
not,
to the
no.
privacy policy that we just discussed with that.
All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun, Chris. Again, this is kind of our first PS, but well worth it. I think you're going to cause a lot of searches online, which you're probably going to monetize.
Yeah.
No, I am not.
He's gonna have him redirect to his website.
Right.
As a global community, we're all in this together. So
Yes.
read the white paper.
Okay, I want to go get my retina scanned. Somebody tell me where the orb is.
All right. Thanks again,
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks,
Okay.
y'all.
Get Real 411 is hosted by Brad Rice and Jamie Cavanaugh, produced by Stuart Gelin, and recorded live from the AmeriFund Home Loan Studio in Simi Valley, California. You can learn more about the show at getreal411.com and watch full episodes on YouTube. If you're interested in being a guest on Get Real 411, email booking@getreal411.com. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.